Welcome back, guys, and we're very nearly there to the finish line on this kit. We've got one more job to do, and it is the last job. I always leave it to the last, and that's exhaust staining. So let's have a recap of where we're at. I've got the aircraft fully painted, weathered, upper and lower surfaces. Got the nav lights on and painted. We've got these little flaps on. We've got the antenna wire on with the insulator on the back. Got the cockpit access door painted up and deckled and fixed in place. So, and obviously we've got the exhaust stubs in place as well. So really all that's left is now just to put the classic exhaust staining, and I'm going to ponder how much I want to do, and I don't want to go overly with it, to be honest with you. So as in previous videos you see me do exhaust staining, I've made a sort of a grimy black brown. So I've made that from NATO black and NATO brown, mixed it together to get that sort of dirty, greasy, sooty colour. Roughly about 15 psi. I actually might just knock it down just a small bit. So quite low pressure because we want very detailed application. We do not want to be flooding the surface with this. Take the crown cap off the airbrush so we've got free access to the needle. And a little bit more pressure. There we go. Right, good. So starting from the back of the first exhaust stub, we want to start just dusting in this paint, and it is very thin paint. Make sure to spray back towards the model. Okay. And we want to just get that, and it naturally follows the curvature of the wing. And you can vary going in close to get that finer, more defined look. We want to go underneath as well, just to kind of get tight in around the exhausts. And there we go, and just when you think you've got enough, stop. Try not to overdo it, because we don't want to do all this hard work on this aircraft and spoil it just for going overboard on the exhaust stains. Always look at your reference photos and try and keep your airbrush working, keeping with what you see. And you will find that the exhaust stains always follow the aerofoil on the upper wing surface as it gets drawn down towards the rear of the wing surface. Now the key for this is very thin paint and very gentle application. So you just get that very steady build up along the side of the fuselage. Keep checking to make sure you're even and you're happy with what you're doing. And when you're at a point where you think you're just about starting to go too far, you're probably just about where you need to be. These engines worked hard. They were well maintained, but you got to think at the peak of their operational life, they probably didn't get much respite. You know, between operational flights, test flights, and the like. There we go. So we've got the first streaks in now. Always remember these engines had leaded fuel, and with leaded fuel you would end up getting, pour some of this paint out, you'd end up getting a sort of a white, almost chalky deposit, creamy white, and that is just a lead deposit in the exhaust stain. Now, to replicate that, let's put the airbrush down while I open this. We just need to add grey to the paint. You can use loads of different colours of grey. I've got XF53, which is neutral grey, because I don't want it to be too stark. If you wanted a more visible grey hue, you could use something like XF20 or XF19, which would really lift the colour from the original base colour. So that's good to have a patch of the original paint here, because then we can take the paint after it's been greyed out, spray a bit over it just to see if the colour differences. I think we need a little bit more. Yeah, that looks good. There we go. You can see now there is a defined difference between the shades. Just checking to see how that's coming out. Because we've put paint in, it's thickened up a little bit, so we need just to be very, very careful. So you just want to take on the tips of the exhaust and in the center of the exhaust plume. You see where it starts coming out, and you just, that's it, a hint there, no more than that. There. If you're not happy with it, you can always go back over, darken the color down and go back over it just to blend it in. I probably should have thinned that a little bit, just so I had a little more control over it, but I think it's going to work okay. A little bit over the exhaust tips, because they'll obviously pick up this leading, and I think that's it. I think we can call that. So there we go, that's it. Very, very quick, very simple. We're just going for a subtle exhaust staining on this aircraft. We've got one side here running slightly richer as the other, but that's all the fun of the fair. That's it. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tidy all this lot up, get the camera back up on me, and we can actually sum up with final thoughts and conclusions about Border Models 1/35th scale Spitfire Mark 5B. See you in a moment, guys. So there we go. Border Models 1/35th scale Spitfire Mark 5B. And Galeri's Swallowtail, A series Swallowtail Barbatos Rex. The kit. Well, my honest opinion is I really like the model. It's a really nice size. The detail's really quite nice on it, and it goes together really quite well. However, and there's always a however, isn't there? Border models have really, really let themselves down in the instructions. So we're looking at missing parts, missing steps, no color callouts, and generally sort of being vague. It's really disappointing for a high-end kit, and this is, let's face it, it is a high-end kit. You're looking between 55 to 65 pounds UK. That's not pocket change. That's a good chunk of change for a model. You get a lot of plastic for your kit, and the detail's reasonably good, but it makes the build experience really, really poor when you're having to fight with the instructions to figure out where parts go, and to figure out what colors to paint. Now, as I said in the video, I went on to ScaleMates and downloaded Edard's 148 scale Mark 5B instructions, which gives you all the color callouts, and I've just basically used those color callouts to paint this aircraft. Obviously the external scheme you do get the color callouts for, and it's MIG ammo paint, but you can cross-reference those paints to whatever is your preferred paint brand, so that's not a problem. But when it comes to the interior detail, you really are scratching around trying to find out which color to paint what. Now, I know there's loads of reference material out there and you can find it, but the whole point is, if you're paying good money for a kit, that information should be on the instructions. And it's not the first border kit that's struggled with the fact that they don't have color callouts. So, you know, strong message to border: if you're going to improve your kits, improve the instructions, get the color callouts in, and get someone to proofread your instructions to make sure that every step of the build is in the right order and is accounted for, so you're not leaving scratching your head. Other than the instructions, then the instrument panel is nice detail, really nicely molded, but the recesses for the individual decals were too deep. And it was a bit of a struggle to get them in and get them so you could still view them. I managed it, and you saw that on the video. It does look reasonably good, and I know there's other 3D printed decal instrument panels that can replace this that you can use, and I probably would, if I was to build this kit again, go down that route just to enhance the cockpit a little bit more. The photo etch harnesses, I had to cut them up and re-glue them to get them looking anything like they ought to be. So, you know, again, if I was building this again, HGW harnesses, no problem, that's what I'd be doing, get a Sutton harness for that. It would have been nice to have a pilot figure if you wanted to do in-flight. I think this would be a beautiful in-flight model. But again, it's a nice desk display model. And then finally, the infamous photo etch for the wheelbase. Absolute schoolboy error on the part of Border in the fact that they didn't mirror the photo etch. They just had two exactly the same pieces, so one fitted perfectly well and the other one was completely the wrong way around. I did show in the video how to overcome that, a little bit of nipping and trimming, but you know, completely frustrated me. And if I hadn't had as much experience working with photo etch as I've had, that really would have put me off this kit. On the plus points, the plastic's really good quality. The detail is really good. It's a little bit inconsistent here and there. You know, one side's got recessed rivets, the other side's got raised rivets. It's not a game changer for me. But what was good is the fact that it all fitted really, really well. So I didn't need to use much filler at all, and the detail stood up really well to the paint process. So all the rivet lines and the panel lines, they're all beautifully there, rendered once it's painted, and they've all taken and washed really well. Decals, it's a bit of a dilemma. The color's probably off. The blue in the wing roundels I think is too bright, as is the red. And then we look at the side roundels and the tail flash, I just think the colours are off. Even after a little bit of weathering, it still looks a little off. On the plus side, they're really good. They're really, really thin. They've all conformed to the aircraft beautifully, so they actually look painted on. There were a few problems on the underside with these underside roundels struggling to conform to the undulations on the aircraft, so they broke up a little bit, but with a little bit of paint and careful touching up, I was able to repair the cracks and the damage. And yeah, they're excellent. So, you know, kudos to Border. The decals are good, but you've got to be careful. You know, they're quite fragile, and you know, where you put them on, if you use a quite strong setting solution, they'll just grip straight away. So again, you need to be very precise with your positioning and very careful with your handling, but they go down really nicely. The engine detail, I know I closed my one up. If you're wanting to leave it open, you're going to have to do a lot of scratch work to bring the engine bay up to a good standard to have it displayed. But closed up, you know, curbside look, it's all really nice. The cockpit, you know, with it open, detail painted, it's really rather nice. The cockpit door has got 4 ejector pin marks on that are absolute pain in the hoop to get out, so I've just gone with it and put them on. The transparencies, a little bit tricky and a little bit wavy. That's why mine's got an open cockpit, so it kind of detracts from the distortions in the glass. But they are very thin, you need to be very careful, and they don't look too bad. And you know, once you get the armor glass fitted to the front windshield, it doesn't look too bad. All the surfaces are positionable, which is all right. I've put a little bit of deflection on mine just to add a little bit of interest, and the undercarriage with quite a bit of super glue becomes reasonably strong. You need to be careful because it's a little bit of a weak point where it joins the aircraft. All in all, an enjoyable build, a really enjoyable build, and it's kind of given me some enthusiasm for 35th scale aircraft. So much so, I have been and bought the Messerschmitt G6 to accompany the Spitfire, and yeah, I may have the Stuka on the way as well, so yeah, Border's kind of got me there. Another part of the build was to test the Ace series airbrush from Galeri, their Swallowtail Barbatos Rex 3-in-1. So we looked at using the fan cap to do the priming and the large area work, and we looked at using the 0.28 cap needle nozzle assembly for doing the fine spray work. Another pleasurable experience from Galeri. I might be sounding a little bit like a fanboy, but in all honesty, I just like the way they work, and they do work for me very, very well. I know other people might have other opinions and other people may have struggled, but for me, I have no problem with these airbrushes and highly recommend them, especially bearing in mind that if you're looking at the price-wise, compared to the nearest competitor for what you get in the package, they're very, very good value for money, and they're also backed up with a very good customer guarantee. So, enough of that. There we go. Border models 1/35th scale Spitfire Mark 5B. For me, I have to say, recommended, with the caveat that you need to get a few kits under your belt and then work with a bit of photo etch, just so you can overcome the shortcomings in the instructions and the photo etch parts for the kit. But you end up with a fantastic model. It's a really good size, the detail's excellent, and yeah, it's just worth a go. So have a go, highly recommend it. So if you have any questions, comments or suggestions you want to discuss, please put them down in the comments box below. I appreciate everybody who takes time to comment, and I always take time to answer back. And if you've gotten this far in the video, thank you very much. If you'd like to subscribe and give it a like, then I'd also appreciate that. So until next time, guys, stay safe and happy modeling.